And welcome back to the AFL High Performance Podcast. Today's a solo episode. My name is Jack McLean. I'm your host, and today I'll be discussing everything that you need to know if you're an intern at a current professional football club or you're looking to take on your first internship. We've got 5 different tips on how to land your first full-time contract, whether that be for the upcoming season around that October, November period of 2025, or perhaps it's next year, how to maximize the next 12 months. So I'll be going into some of my experience when I was an intern, and then what I did to give myself my best shot at a contract. It didn't come early in my career. It came after a number of years of volunteering and honorarium contracts, but then also some skill sets that you can work on while you're chipping away and developing your experience and perhaps completing your degree in Bachelor of Sports Science or Applied Human Movement. But we'll start with what was my first break and what did I do differently? So for me, before I started as strength and conditioning coach, I was a personal trainer for about 7 years. And that was great to not only hone my craft in coaching, but also I built up a pretty strong business where it was a good client base that were pretty flexible. So as I took on commitments of working in the afternoons in semi-professional sport and community level sport or high school during the day, I was able to adjust my clientele. And ultimately, as anyone that's listening in is working in sport, you'll understand that early days you're looking to build up your experience and take opportunities as they present themselves. And usually those roles don't pay that well. So it's good to have something that's still specific in developing yourself as a coach, like personal training does, but also brings in good money so you can survive and pay your way. So that was for me. And I found that actually gave me confidence going into these environments where I had a good skill set and I had some qualities or I guess experience in being able to teach people how to lift with good form, good technique, not only with the power lifts, the squat, bench press, deadlift, but also in the Olympic lifting, which some athletes were really engaged in. And that led to developing a power and speed club, the Box Hill Hawks, in the off season. So I'd go down to the club once or twice a week in the off season, and we had a crew of anywhere between 6 and 10 athletes. And not only was that really effective in developing their power and explosive qualities, but also it was a good opportunity to develop some strong relationships with those players that set you up for the following year. And as anyone that's worked in football, it is a people's game, and the stronger relationships you have, the better impact you're able to make, and certainly the more enjoyment you'll get at the workplace as well. So that is something that I felt helped me get my first break into my first full-time contract was relationships, and through that, putting in some extra time in the off season where there's not as many people in the club and it's just you and the athletes is a golden period to make a real influence on their career and something that they'll appreciate. No doubt those that are in this stage, developing sort of strength and conditioning stage, are wearing multiple hats. So you might be wondering, what do you prioritize? We're getting to that point. Obviously, it's part of it's the middle of August. So we're getting to that point now where hopefully you're reviewing on your commitments for next year. And perhaps you could be working at a high performance private sector gym and you've got a few clients there, small group training one-on-ones with athletes. You might have a contract with, like I worked at Haileybury with the rowers and the rugby athletes. You could perhaps be working at a semi-professional club in the afternoons, working with adults, and perhaps you're maybe lecturing at a university, for example, if you finish a degree. So you can wear multiple hats in this caper, and it's definitely recommended, I think, developing a generalist skill set before specialising. And honing your craft on a particular area that you're passionate about and have got some skills in and competence in. And I think to start with, build a good base, expose yourself to as many different environments as you can, and mentors and influences, and learn by doing and getting your hands dirty and experiencing lots of different things. So then when you are in more senior roles, hopefully there's not as many surprises, and you've seen a lot of those challenges and problems, so you can get on the front foot and help out the athletes because you've seen it in the past and you've seen how other people have managed those issues and challenges. But ultimately, as you're well aware, the more hats you wear, probably the less quality of work you'll be doing. So there is that fine balance, and I think we're a good indicator of whether you're probably committing yourself too much, and maybe you're burning some bridges, or you're not able to actually make a real impact in any of these places that's going to lead to future work and recommendations, is when you're perhaps finding it challenging to make all the commitments, but also not maybe you're making all the commitments, but you're just so drained that you're not really influencing the environment at its full potential. So that's only something you can know, but something to review on, have you got that balance right, or have you overcommitted yourself? It's probably a good way to go about it, is to learn by overcommitting yourself and then working back from that, rather than undercommitting and feeling like there's more that you can give. But generally speaking, I think early on, perhaps you've just started your bachelor's degree, get as much experience as you can and wear yourself thin deliberately and find out what your ceiling is, and then work back from that. And then as you get closer to that first full-time contract, where naturally you're just going to focus on the one thing because you're full-time, hopefully you start to refine it and really maximize every day that you're at those 1 or 2 or 3 different workplaces. How can you put your best foot forward and give yourself the best chance by making a real impact, to the point where they're just going to want you to have you around, whether they create a role for you, which I've definitely experienced situations like that. There's a new role that's put in place just simply because they want to keep you around, or someone moves on, which is probably more common, and then naturally they see you as the perfect candidate to step into their shoes. Next one, what specific skills, traits are AFL clubs looking at? So I've broken this down to 3 key areas. I think number 1, you've got to have competence in sports science, strength, conditioning, any system development, and then, of course, coaching in general. So of those 4 key areas, the sports side of things, you need to be across the data. We need to be objective in our field, I believe, to do our best work. And I think you need to be able to have a good understanding of how to conduct tests using, like, more commonly the Vold software. So your CECAF isometrics, or your isometric testing for screening purposes, as well as your jump profile testing, and be across as well GPS, max velocity, and the different running thresholds that you're doing at your club, and what that all means, and how you can tie that to the game model. Ultimately, the testing then is also, it's all good and well to test, but then what are you doing with that test? Do you understand the strategy that athlete needs to follow to be at their best? Do they need more range of motion, or do they need to be fast? Do they need to be perhaps a bit slower, and they're more slow stretch shortening cycle dominant, or are they more fast, more twitchy, more tendon based? So understanding not just the outcome, but their strategy. And then ultimately, the most important thing is, what are you going to do with all that information? What's the program? What stimulus are you chasing to get the best out of that athlete, for them to be able to perform their best in the upcoming season, upcoming game? Number 2, I mentioned a little bit earlier, the generalist. So make sure you're competent in the gym. You can coach all the key movement patterns in the gym: squatting, lunging, deadlifting, hip hinging, pressing, pulling, and get a real good feel for, at the end of the day, they're not weightlifters, they're not powerlifters, so we don't need to over demand their technique proficiency, as long as they're safe, and their intent is absolute maximum on that lift, and they've got a real clear idea of why they're doing that exercise. I think that's the main thing. So technique is safe. They're not going to hurt themselves or pull up sore the next day. That's going to impact their field session. And they've got a real clear understanding of the why. So their intent is maximum. So they're going to get the best adaptation. Number 2, the field. So understanding the sport, getting involved in the conditioning side of things, the warm-ups, the speed, the agility, the acceleration, the deceleration, all those athletic movements, and how to coach them, how to create drills, and ultimately how to make an impact on coaching athletes to move more efficiently. And then, of course, rehab as well. So be able to understand medical lingo, and be able to work closely with physiotherapists, doctors, so you can collaborate and ultimately help from a strength and conditioning point of view, them understand your perspective, but also understand their perspective by just spending time around the physio beds with their clinical assessments, their diagnosis, and then how that's going to inform the upcoming training session, depending on how that athlete presents and the medical's perspective. So that's critical. AFL clubs love people that fit in really well and work well with the team. Ultimately, there's no point being really strong in your silo, but then not being able to integrate with the medical and the coaching team. Number two, number three is coaching. So be able to have a presence. The players need to be able to obviously have a relationship with you, have rapport, but more importantly, respect you and respect the work that you're doing. You need to be able to challenge athletes to be better. Not all athletes, or footballers, I should say, are going to love doing the things that you're getting them to do, simply because they want to be playing the game. So you need to make sure you've got, like I said before, be able to educate the importance of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and show lots of care. And that's where the relationship piece and the art of coaching comes into it. And then within that, as I just touched on there, relationships, that is probably the biggest takeaway, hopefully, from this presentation. Or this podcast, sorry, if you're listening in and you're wanting to make an impact at your workplace, just keep working on developing strong relationships in the workplace, and that will allow you to make a great impact in your role, but also help others around you as well. So for developing strength and conditioning coach came to me with little to no experience, but heaps of drive and passion. These would be my 3 tips. Be well across the research. So you're researched, informed, and understanding why those that are ahead of you are doing the things that they're doing. So things around like hamstring injury mitigation. We know that's a prevalent injury, calves, groin management, but also performance things around things like James Wild's research or Jonas Doty's research around how we can make athletes more efficient and run faster. Get your hands dirty. Make sure you're coaching at all levels, young athletes, senior athletes, injured athletes, team in big groups, in one-on-one formats, smaller groups, as many different environments as you can. And then I think it's really important that you train hard yourself and early on as well, when you've got the energy and the time. You're competing in sports that maybe it's a sprint triathlon, for example, or it's Olympic weightlifting or whatever it might be, something that you can really get competitive in and use the research and the science that you're understanding now and putting it to practice and living it. So you get a bit of empathy on from the athlete side of things. But I also think that helps with the relationship down the well as well. If you're fit, and it doesn't mean you need to be at elite world-class level, of course, that otherwise you'd be an athlete, but you're just putting in the effort and you've understand what a hard bike session feels like, what it takes to go through a grueling 12-week periodized strength program and so forth. Common trap, I think, and I've been guilty of this early on in your career, you're probably pretty naive to how competitive our industry is. Any role that pops up, particularly full-time roles, you're going to be in the hundreds to thousands that are people applying from all over the world for that role. So use that for motivation. And that's where the scorecard that I've created with a year 1 Bachelor of Sports Science in mind up until year 4, how to maximize those 4 years while you're doing your degree. What can you be doing outside of your degree to give yourself a competitive advantage? So if you haven't downloaded that yet, it will be in the show notes. Click that link and you'll get an Excel spreadsheet on a point system you can rank to see all the experiences you built up and how competitive you are right now in your journey, and what areas of things, and I've touched on some of them in this podcast, what are some other areas that you can do to give yourself your best chance for that full-time contract. All the best, guys. I do have mentoring availability, particularly now that we're getting closer to the off-season, September, October. So if you want some one-on-one mentoring calls with myself to go into a bit more detail and a bit more individualized I've got 5 spots available for the upcoming months. So feel free to reach out. You can email me at jack@propellicapro.com to claim one of those spots. It is a paid service, but you'll get plenty of value, and no doubt I'll help you as much as I can. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you on the next episode.